This episode of the Answer is Yes Baja Sessions is brought to you by Baja Bound Insurance Services. Driving to Mexico? You can buy and print out your Mexican auto insurance policy online in minutes with their easy-to-use website. They also have great travel information to help you plan your trip south of the border. Visit bajabound.com.
Hello, this is Ryan Thomas, and you're listening to the Baja Sessions. Over the last 3 decades, I've lived, worked, and played from the top to the tip of the majestic peninsula of Baja California. And because of this, I've met some incredibly interesting people with equally interesting stories. And today on the Baja Sessions, we're going to chat with one of them.
Matias Arjona's entire life revolves around the sea, the vessels that float on it, and the animals that live in it. He's a successful businessman with roots that go back 4 generations working in and for the port authorities of Baja. Matias is just winding down a 6-year term as the Secretary of Fish and Wildlife for the state of Baja and is looking forward to handing over the reins of Agencia Arjona, the family business, to his son in the near future. We caught up with Matias at the awards banquet for the 2019 Baja 500, right before he and his 19-year-old son collected a trophy for winning their division. We cover a range of topics in this interview, including tuna farming, foreign investment, and of course, a little bit of off-road racing.
So, Matias, it's so awesome to be here with you at Estero Beach. You just finished a bit of an endeavor here. It's the Baja 1000's angry little brother, the Baja 500. Matias and I go way back. We've been friends for, probably close to 20 years now. And you are a local Mexican resident here of Ensenada, I believe. Still, yes?
Yes.
And Matias is a very interesting person here. He is involved in something that I'm really looking forward to learning more about. And it's going to be something that I think all of our listeners are going to enjoy hearing about. Anybody that has driven to Ensenada over the last 15, 20 years, at some point I'm sure has looked off to their right as they're headed south and they see those rings down there. The tuna rings is what we're talking about, and we'll get to that in a second. But first off, I want to congratulate you. You won your race yesterday. How was that?
Oh, it was an awesome race. We prepped really, really hard. We have a great team. We have a great car, but we had a little job to do on the professionalization of the pit crews. You know, we did a lot of changes on the pits, on the people that come and help us. We contacted professional guys that are into racing some kind and that know how to pit, because we were losing a lot of time on the pits. So we got that on track. Great team now for pits, great people, and the results are there. We won the race. We had a perfect race. We made pits of 2.5 minutes, gassing the car and checking everything. So almost Formula One style.
That was always the thing that I enjoyed about racing was the preparation, performance, and then an immediate evaluation. There's not a lot of things in life where you can prepare and go perform and then know how you did. And racing is one of those things. If you didn't win, in some ways you failed. And so it's nice to know when you prepare and then go and perform. When you win, you couldn't have done any better. So that's a nice feeling.
On every race, there's big responsibilities. I, as a head of the Arjona Racing Terza team, I really talk to every person that is on my team that they have a responsibility to do race day, and it's not drinking a beer.
Yeah,
it's taking that car to the finish line in first place.
Yeah.
So that's how we did. We're happy. We had a perfect race. My son is a father and son deal. I love that, and my goal is to win the points this year with my son.
Awesome. Well, you mentioned your last name, Arjona, and again, anybody that's driven around down in Baja, I would imagine at some point has driven by. They may not have recognized it, but one of the agencias that you have. Tell me just a little bit about the beginning of and I don't know, is that a family business that has been around longer than just your generation? How far back does the Agencia Arjona go? And give us just a little background on the beginning of your life here in Ensenada. Is this where you were born, was Ensenada?
I was born in San Diego.
Oh, okay.
But, I 3 days after I was born, I came to Ensenada. And my family is on both sides, on my Arjona, and then my father's mother, Goldbound. They are like the top 3 founders of Ensenada. And they came into the mining business to El Alamo, 90 kilometers south of Ensenada, going to Valle de Trinidad.
I've been on top of the Picacho El Alamo.
Well, in El Alamo, it was a huge mining. So the Goldbound family comes in 1857 to the mining.
Wow.
And then the Arjona show up in 1922 in Ensenada. And they're coming, of course, from Spain, from a little town called Arjonilla, that is out of Sevilla, Spain. And they come into my great-grandfather came into Veracruz on a boat. And then he started working for the Port Authority. And then they moved him to Guaymas as the first Port Authority there in Guaymas, Sonora. That's where my grandfather, Matias Arjona Sr., was born. And then they moved him to Ensenada as a Port Authority too. So we are always related to the water.
I love it.
And to the port, and to the vessels, and to the pangas. And, it's funny because your house, my house, is 1.5 minutes from my office. And every day I drive by the Pacific Ocean.
I love it, yeah. No, that we share that in common for sure. There's something about just smelling the salt air. I mean, I'm a surfer too, and so being in the ocean is special for me also. But smelling it, seeing it, knowing it's close by, as many beautiful places as there are around the world, I could never imagine living full-time in any of those beautiful places if they didn't have an ocean nearby. So
of course.
We do share that in common for sure. So you grew up here in Ensenada then?
I grew up in Ensenada. Yeah. Then I went to high school in Santa Barbara, California.
Oh, wow, okay.
So I lived in Santa Barbara for 1 year. And then I went to university in Monterrey, Mexico, Tecnológico de Monterrey. I have a business degree, and then I have a master's in business also that I did in Mexico City. And then I graduated in 88, and then as soon as I graduated, I come back to Ensenada and started working in the company, Agencia Arjona. Agencia Arjona was founded by my father.
Okay.
Because his father, my grandfather, came into Ensenada as a port authority. So Ensenada started to, it was named a big port, we call it a Puerto de Altura, so big vessels started to come in,
right.
from Asia and from South America. So my grandfather saw the good opportunity, very nice opportunity, because nobody was available to sell anything to these vessels. So these vessels come in,
and they need parts and repair. And
1956, May of 1956, Agencia Arjona was born, because my grandfather told my father, hey, these guys, they come into Ensenada, and they had to send somebody to San Pedro, California, or to Long Beach to get all these parts for these vessels. So my father borrowed some money, bought a pickup truck, and then every day he went to the port. And a vessel comes in, and they order, a list of things, and he drove to Long Beach at 5 a.m., and then came back in the afternoon. Back then, no border. He just go across with the pickup full and tip $5 or $3.
And a business was born.
And came and delivered to the vessels. So that's how Agencia Arjona was born.
Awesome.
And now 63-year-old company. Then, when I came back from the university, I had this bad news. My father had cancer, melanoma cancer. So he passed away in 93 as a 59-year-old guy. So I just came back from the university. So I no other option. I have to jump into the
time
business
to grow up,
as a 26-year-old kid, on a big company. And I've done it. Now I look back, I have 26 years managing the company. The company is growing. We have 4 stores now. We're going to mainland this year.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we're going to Mazatlan with a nice store and getting it ready for my son, Matias.
Awesome.
He's in the university already.
Good deal. Good deal. And the connection to the maritime lifestyle leads me to the question, do you spend time on boats and do you like to be on the ocean in boats?
I'm always on the ocean.
Yeah.
I am always on the ocean. And last night, when I was on the beach at Erendira racing, that smell of the ocean, I really oxygenated myself, and it's unbelievable.
I didn't say this when we were talking about that, but I can tell you that in all my years of racing, to get out to the coastline after a long, 8, 10, 12, 20 hours in the race car, there was always something soothing about being on that. For the listeners that are not aware, there's a traditional stretch of the race course, the Baja 500 and Baja 1000, that run along the Pacific coastline here in northern Baja, and it's just kind of a breathtakingly beautiful stretch. But even at night, when you can't see any of it when you're racing, for me, just knowing that it was there was a calming and soothing.
Smells so good.
Yeah.
Right by Kamalu,
Yep.
Also that ocean smell. So the ocean, everything that we do as a Arjona family and Arjona business, everything is related to the ocean.
Right.
So that's how we got into the tuna farming business.
So yeah, now we've kind of gotten the backstory, and this to me, and you and I've had a brief discussion a couple years ago about some of this, but it's something that's been fascinating to me for years. Again, driving into the town and seeing those rings out there and understanding a little bit about what I think goes on there, but I'm excited about this next part of the conversation because I don't really know the details, and I'm looking forward to hearing from you what goes on out there. We don't need to get into any of the areas that are if there's any controversial stuff. I mean, it's just fascinating to me that there are fish that live in nets out there, and somehow it is making its way onto our tables or onto the Japanese table. I don't know. Do we get to eat any of that fish, or how's it work?
It's all over the world now.
Yeah.
But the Japanese, they demand like 80% of what we farm or we produce here in Ensenada.
But so when did that start? Because
okay.
like I said, I've seen those rings for years, but I don't know.
Let's go back to 1997.
Okay.
And, we as a company have been related to the tuna fleet operation in Mexico. There's about
for decades
50 tuna vessels in Mexico fishing right now. So the Mexican tuna fleet, we are the number one suppliers to them. That's our main business is the Mexican tuna fleet and the outboards.
Is it Evinrude?
We do Evinrude and we do Suzuki.
Okay.
But now top is Suzuki brand.
Okay.
They're really awesome. So we, started with the relation of the tuna vessel. In 1997, Mr. Gabaldon, a guy from Mexico City that lived in San Diego and in Ensenada, the part-time in San Diego, part-time in Ensenada, he owned a company, Atunera Nair. So he had 3 tuna vessels. So he went on vacation to Australia. He goes to Port Lincoln and he sees all these bluefin tuna pens on that coast.
And was that where they made the television show?
No, that was a little after
Okay.
that. Yeah.
Okay.
So then he comes back to Mexico and he does a little research on bluefin tuna, how it migrates, all over the Pacific Ocean and in the Atlantic. We have different species.
Right.
Different species. Almost the same, but they are different. So Pacific Ocean, one species, and Atlantic Ocean and Mediterranean is another species. So he looked at this flow of tuna, all over the world, and he found out that we had a huge school going through the Baja coast once a year. And this big school of back then in 97, it was 10,000 to 14,000 tons of bluefin tuna.
Wow.
Yes, going like from Cabo, they come in from the Western Pacific, and then to Cabo, and then they just like run up north, like from 70 to 100 miles out of the